So good evening, everybody. My name is Auntie Jill, and this is the Big Book study. We're on chapter 6 of the Big Book, which is called Into Action. So if you've got your Big Book handy, pull her out. If not, are we able to share the screen of the first page that we're going to be looking at, which is page 72? Now, I just want to start off. We're going to go, as usual, reading one paragraph at a time. And then we're going to pause at the end of each paragraph, and I'm going to hopefully put things into simple language. But before we even go there, let's just think about where we're at. Okay, so we've just completed our inventory, our step 4 inventory. And so one of the things that we're going to do in step 5, and step 5 is admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being, the exact nature of our wrongs. Now, this is the point where a lot of people start to waffle and start to double down trying to do the program their way if they haven't been attempting to do that already. And that's why we suggest that if you're a sponsor and you're going through the Big Book with somebody and you're going through the steps, step 5 should actually take place right after you complete step 4. And there's a practical reason for that. You don't leave people hanging in their revisiting of the past. And you want to be able to supply the relief that comes from admitting to God, to ourselves, and to another human being. So there's 3 of us in the room when we take this step. And that's where we are tonight. So what we're basically saying is we've done an inventory on paper, but we can't just leave it sitting there on paper. For me, this is the cleansing. This is where I start to actually shed the burden of what I've been carrying around with most of my life. So having said that, I just want to say, notice it is into action. For those who are in their heads a lot, it is not into thinking. Okay? This is into action. All right, let's start with the reading of the first paragraph, please. Amy?
Okay, I'll go ahead and read this one and then I'll ask other people to read. So, Amy, alcoholic. Having made our personal inventory, what shall we do about it? We have been trying to get a new attitude, a new relationship with our Creator, and to discover the obstacles in our path. We have admitted certain defects. We have ascertained in a rough way what the trouble is. We have put our finger on the weak terms in our personal inventory. Now these are about to be cast out. This requires action on our part, which, when completed, will mean we have admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our defects. This brings up the 5th step in the program of recovery mentioned in the preceding chapter.
Okay, so this is a very loaded paragraph. So it's basically saying, having made our personal inventory, okay, we've done step 4. What are we going to do about it? Okay, if we just leave it sitting there on paper, it's going to fester. And I love what my sponsor said to me, which was, Jill, you're as sick as your secrets. So this is also where we're warned that a lot of sponsees are going to try and take half measures at this step. Then there's a desire for us to bypass out of fear and reluctance to do this. And we search for an easier, softer way. And then what we really find is that we end up just, instead of admitting that, like a lot of alcoholics, we've acted poorly when we've been in our disease, we end up festering and we drink on it again. So having made what are we going to do about it? We're going to clean this right up. And then notice the very first word is we. we have been trying to get now there's 3 purposes here. Put 1 and a circle around new attitude. These are the 3 purposes, and this is in homework for anyone working with me directly, so you get a heads up on this. New attitude is the first purpose of doing this. 2, new relationship with our Creator. Remember in step 3, we finally opened the door and we have a real relationship with our Creator now, our higher power, our God as we understand him, or her. And now we're gonna build on that. And then the third purpose is to discover the obstacles in our path. What is blocking me? Why am I drinking again? So then it says, we've admitted to certain defects. We have ascertained in a rough way, like generally. So we're doing the best we can when we do step 4, but that doesn't mean, and as Johnny Max often said, the 12 steps are a circle. The first time we go through step 4, we are as exhaustive as we possibly can be, but we don't get stuck. Okay? So we've done the best job we can. And now we're going to put our finger on the weak items in our personal inventory. Now these are about to be cast out. These are what we're going to get rid of. Okay? This requires action on our part. Circle the word action. This is what is the action, which when completed will mean that we've admitted, and this is the action, we've admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being. Notice now it says the exact nature of our defects. So what we're doing is we're not bypassing taking the easier, softer way here. We know what our side of the street of it is. And as painful as some things are to admit, that is the point of this step. If you bypass this, we stay sick. And again, keeping secrets, I'm as sick as my secrets for sure. Anything I hold back is something that I'm going to risk drinking on again. And if you don't feel comfortable with your current sponsor disclosing something, then think of another human being, whether it's a minister, a rabbi, some other people in AA just offer to listen to 5th steps. You know, my sponsors listen to many people's 5th steps because I have to say, having had the experience, I don't remember anything anyone ever tells me. It's just imagine it as this cathartic cleansing process where you get to unburden all of this stuff. And think of it as the confessional in the Catholic Church. That's not what we're doing precisely here from a religious perspective, but it is the same concept. We're unburdening. And the other thing we are is we're rigorously honest. Okay? So this is what has brought us to the 5th step. And notice it says, in the program, circle it, underline it, of recovery. Every single one of these steps has to be done to the best of our ability. And we've already discussed that step 1 is the only one and essentially is important to do completely, which is to admit your powerlessness and that life is, but also admit that your life is unmanageable as a result of your drinking or whatever it is that you're making your higher power. Okay, so the other thing is where I've circled exact nature. Notice that is also the column 4, the exact nature, my role in it, that we were doing in our step 4. Okay, Amy, do you have anything you want to add on that paragraph?
No, that's good.
Okay, then let's move on to the next, please. We're on again, second paragraph. This is perhaps difficult.
Lori, do you want to read or?
Yeah, I can read. I'm capable of reading. Lori, alcoholic, clearly. Okay, this is perhaps difficult, especially discussing our defects with another person. We think we have done well enough in admitting these things to ourselves. There is doubt about that. In actual practice, we usually find a solitary self-appraisal insufficient. Many of us thought it necessary to go much further. We will be more reconciled to discussing ourselves with another person when we see good reasons why we should do so. The best reason first, if we skip this vital step, we may not overcome our drinking. Time after time, newcomers have tried to keep to themselves certain facts about their lives. Trying to avoid this humbling experience, they have turned to easier methods. Almost invariably, they got drunk. Having persevered with the rest of the program, they wondered why they fell. We think the reason is that they never completed their house cleaning. They took inventory all right, but hung on to some of the worst items in stock. They only thought they had lost their egoism and fear. They only thought they had humbled themselves, but they have not learned enough of humility, fearlessness, and honesty in the sense we find it necessary until they told someone else all their life story.
Okay, so this is, Lori, you got a loaded paragraph there.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in there.
Okay, whoa, okay. Discussing our defects with another person. Okay, notice this. Okay, we think we've done well in admitting this to ourselves. You know, I know what I've done. And you talk about half measures avail us nothing. Me just saying in my own head, or even writing it on a piece of paper to myself, what I've done, is not really the idea of the cleansing of a confessional type exercise. There needs to be 3 in the room. There needs to be another human being. And usually it's our sponsor, because it's somebody that we've allowed to really get to know us, warts and all, that is also alcoholic, that isn't sitting in judgment, right? It's a safe person. And then the other person is your higher power, or the other entity, if you will, is your higher power. So there's 3 of you in the room. And the solitary self-appraisal is, underline that, solitary self-appraisal. Isn't that what we're doing a lot of times when we look at our behavior and we drink again? You know, oh, it wasn't that bad. Ask somebody you're impacting. And you might get quite a different version of whether your solitary self-appraisal is accurate. The point is, we have a delusion about what we're all about because we're alcoholics. And if you're still active in your alcoholism, you're probably still operating in a very strong position of self. Now, when I say to you, you're operating from ego, I don't want you to get your back up, because that's what we do. Alcoholism is a very selfish disease. And the further we go down the scale with it, the less we're able to think of other people, because the mental obsession and the physical craving takes more and more of our brain power and our physical day. Not if you've had this experience of feeling like that's the center of what your day is, pursuing your alcohol, where you're going to get it, how you're going to get it, when you can drink it next, if you've got enough for tomorrow, how you're going to get your next bit. How much of your mind and your day does that occupy? Letting go of that in early recovery is not something a solitary self-appraisal is going to allow. So it says we have to go much further. And so we're basically not just saying this without cause. They say we see good reasons why we should do so. The best reason is first, and underline this in red and put a star next to it. If we skip this vital step, there's no words minced here. Life-giving, vital, essential. We may not overcome drinking. I read that as we may not. Not we may not. We may not overcome drinking if we skip this vital step. Time and time again, people have told me that they drank out of resentment. It's the number one downfall of alcoholics. I resent the fact that my roommate has left. I resent the fact I can't afford my holiday. I resent the fact that I can't walk the way I used to. I resent the fact I can't ride the way I used to. I resent the fact the government, you can add your own things to this list. And we will drink again if we don't clean up our role underlying these resentments and identify the fears. So it says time and time again, newcomers have tried to keep this to themselves and keep to themselves these facts about their lives. If it's kept in, it's going to fester. And then it says trying to avoid this humbling experience. Now notice it says humbling, not humiliating. Okay? I don't want to listen to your fifth step because I want to see you cringe and grovel and cry at the things you've done. But what it will do is bring you to your knees, because you're going to humbly ask for these character defects to be removed. And that's when we start to get out of our own way, because we do it with humility. And it says, trying to avoid this humbling experience, they've turned to easier methods. Right. What's the easier method? Skip right back to drinking. Right? It's the easier, softer way. And it's also what we know if we're consistently relapsing. Or if you've started obsessing about something else other than alcohol, and that's being your higher power, it's the easier, softer way than to deal with what's underlying. Okay, and then it says invariably at the top of page 73. Invariably, what does that mean? Without question. They got drunk. Those are four powerful words at the top of that page. Invariably, without a doubt, always it means they got drunk. And then it says, having persevered with the rest of the program. So they didn't deal with this correctly. They weren't rigorously honest. They didn't lay it all out there. And so they continued with the rest of the program. They did the rest of the steps, and then they wonder why they fell. What does it mean by they fell? They drank again. They drank again because all the stuff inside wasn't gotten rid of. It's like a wound where you don't thoroughly cleanse it. It is going to fester again until you get so much pressure, it's going to burst again and you'll drink again. And this is again what it says in summary in the next sentence. We think the reason, what is the reason for what? The reason they drank again is because they never completed their house cleaning. They never completed this full inventory and the fifth step of sharing it with another human being and a higher power. It says they, and now here's something I would like everybody to do in the rest of this paragraph. Circle every time the word they occurs to the end of the paragraph. So taking a look at this paragraph, they, I don't know if you can actually do that. Oh, that's cool. Amy can do it on screen. Look at how many times the word they is appearing here. So the first time it appears is at the top. Okay, so I want you to basically read this in first person with me. Having persevered with the rest of the program, I wondered why I fell. I think the reason is that I never completed my house cleaning. Do you see where I'm going with this? So let's just again pause for a second. We're at the top of 73. Look at it on the screen. And it's starting with they wonder why they fell. Okay? I wonder why I fall. Think about this. Why are you falling? I think the reason is that I never completed my house cleaning. I know I didn't with my first sponsor. I didn't even attempt to do the steps earlier in AA. I knew the steps. I could tell you what the steps were, but I sure as heck wasn't going to do what the rest of you were doing. Of the worst items in stock. I only thought I had lost my egoism and my fear. I only thought that I had humbled myself, but I had not learned enough humility, fearlessness, and honesty. In the sense I find it necessary until I tell someone else all of my life story. So that's homework. When you get to step 4 and doing step 5. Or if you've got a lot of sobriety and you're feeling really wobbly, try it. Read it out loud and speak in the first person. Because we forget humility. We forget our character defects, and we can actually start to feed our character defects and have them grow again without paying attention to it. And that's why we circle round these steps and every once in a while take another look at the roots and say, do I need to do a step 4 on this? If your step 4 is really thorough, you don't have to come around and keep cleaning it. Step 4 is about your past. Okay, this is really important to understand. When we're moving into 10 and we're cleaning up things for the day and we're reflecting on it in 11, this is what our daily conduct is today. This step 4 and 5 is essential for every alcoholic to make peace with everything that is brought to you to where you are today. Is everybody clear the difference? Because I personally didn't get it. I read those steps over and over and over again, and I couldn't understand why being thorough in step 4 was so important. And then I started hearing the stories in these rooms of people who drank again. And what was it that usually spurred it? A resentment? A fear? Okay, so that's something to go through. And then the other thing that I want to point out in that sentence is the word thought. I only thought I'd lost my egoism. I only thought I'd humbled myself. In other words, I was back where we were on the previous page with that solitary self-appraisal again. In other words, folks, I'm still in my head. That's where I like to live. My alcoholic looping brain wants me to go round and round and round in circles, beating myself up, building up resentments, gossiping, getting dramatic, and doing all those these things that take me out of a sense of balance. And you've often seen me hold up 2 hands that are level. This is where I am at ease. I am at dis-ease when one gets too high or one gets too low. And a little special shout out to those of you in here this past week who have relapsed over the Christmas holidays. You knew, because I've spoken to each and every one of you, that you were in a state of dis-ease. Every single one of you. And what we didn't do is use our toolkit. So here's the good news. Every one of you has identified that you are irritable, discontent, all the things, hungry, angry, lonely, tired, the halt. but ignored it and didn't use the tools. Really reflect on that. Because I promise you it's going to happen again. But it doesn't have to. That's the beauty of it. When we get to this step, and really you're almost there. You're almost there. Once you've fully, truly, and hopefully you're licked this time. That's what Bill says in the old language. Are you licked this time? You know, honestly, we've recognized the insanity. We've written about the insanity and some extra homework. We know that we want a greater, more powerful version of ourselves. But what's going on is we're alcoholics. We're doing what alcoholics do. It's holidays. There's pressure. You know what? There's pressure every day of the week, but it's just as good an excuse as any to drink at. We drink because we're alcoholics. We just happen to be in a time of year where we've got more excuses than normal that are convenient. Oh, it's the holidays. You know, it's my family. It's this or that. They're all things that we know from the Serenity Prayer that we have no power to change, but we drank at them, didn't we? Okay, so hopefully those, I know I've really belabored that paragraph, but it's one of the most powerful ones in the book. All right, so back to you, Amy, for organizing reading.
I have a couple of comments there that.
Oh yeah, please
one
do.
is,
Sorry.
no. One thing that I noticed, well, when you were talking about the humbling and not humiliation, trying to avoid this humbling, and you mentioned that that's not humiliation right there, is the speaker at the Bronx today said that the longest road isn't from the head to the heart, it's from the knees to the ground. And that metaphor makes me think of that comment, that it's a humbling experience, not a humiliating experience. And the humbling is being willing to drop to our knees and really seek our higher power. And so that comment that he shared in the Bronx today really caught my attention was, you know, we talk about the longest road is from our head to our heart, but he said that he felt sometimes the longest road was from our knees to the ground. And to me, that goes with that humbling experience. So I thought that was, and then when you said what were the reasons why we got drunk, resentment, fear, pride, and relationships, which are what we write on in step 4. Those are those main things that come up in those columns, right? Resentments, fear, pride, and relationships. Relationships meaning sex, right? And then the other thing I noticed, I don't see it here on this reading, like right here. Oops, sorry. The ones I highlighted in red, the thought. In my book, they're italicized.
Yes, they are.
And remember, italicized words were always supposed to be important. So they only thought, like, so I don't know the significance. It just caught my attention because I highlighted it when you said the word. And when I went to my book to highlight the same notes, I noticed they're italicized. So I don't know what the significance is. I know that always means something important. So I'm just pointing that out.
That's the part that I was just explaining. And thank you for emphasizing that. This is where I go back into my looping brain. It's my thought. I'm back in my own head. I'm back in my own self-will. I'm not actually working with a sponsor and sharing this, because sometimes in step 4s we get into some conversations that are difficult. And certainly if I'm going to be honest with my higher power, you know, all this is about reservations. I only thought, because again, and I was tying it back, Amy, to the statement on the previous page that we were just talking about, solitary self-appraisal is insufficient. So the whole point is we can't, the thought is italicized because it's in our head. Okay?
Perfect.
Let's move on from there.
Okay, I was gonna see if, let me see if Alex wanted to read. Would you want to start with, and maybe just read one paragraph at a time, but we could start with more, and then after we discuss that one, you could read the next paragraph. More than most people, more than most, sorry.
Hi, I'm Alex, alcoholic. More than most people, the alcoholic leads a double life. He is very much the actor. To the outer world, he presents his stage character. This is the one he likes his fellows to see. He wants to enjoy a certain reputation, but knows in his heart he doesn't deserve it.
Okay, so this is very interesting because I think if each of us reflects on our active drinking and our isolation in particular, we're living two lives. There's no doubt about it. Especially if you're trying to keep a business going or you're trying to still be allowed in the liquor store. You know, I'm trying to shop around so that you don't think I'm an alcoholic. I'm presenting myself different ways to different people. I'm living a lie. And the crazy thing is, my alcoholic brain tells me that nobody else knows. I can remember going into a video store when I was back when they rented them in England, or VHS rental, and them suggesting to me, because they also ran the place that sold cider, which was what I was drinking at the time. They suggested that I rent the book, the video 28 Days with Sandra Bullock. Like, that's a pretty much, and I didn't even twig what that was about until I saw it years later, and I'm sitting here going, oh God, they knew too. Well, who else is going in trying to buy cider at 7 o'clock in the morning when it's still locked up? They unlocked it in England at 9 in the morning or whatever it was. But that's the point, is we do these insane things. Okay, so we're leading this double life. And this is the one he likes his fellows to see. I'm trying to live a lie. I'm presenting my stage character to you. And especially if you have an artistic flair or you're a bit of an extrovert, you know, you can have two completely different personalities. It's like being bipolar, crying and falling apart on the inside, screaming of loneliness, and on the outside look like you're ready to go out and, you know, lead some sort of a rally with confidence. But inside, you know, we have low self-esteem. So this is the double life he's talking about. And then what this last line, I underline it. Ask yourself, does this apply to you? In your heart, you don't think you deserve it? You know, that really caused me to stop and reflect about the number of times I've self-sabotaged, or sometimes I think I just drank to blackout because I didn't know any other way out. So really reflect on what that paragraph means to you. That's the whole point of this big book study, is to break each paragraph down and make the words meaningful to you. Okay, let's go to the next paragraph, please.
Alex, you good with the next one?
Oh, yes, certainly. The inconsistency is made worse by the things he does on his sprees. Coming to his senses, he is revolted at certain episodes he vaguely remembers. These memories are a nightmare. He trembles to think someone might have observed him. As fast as he can, he pushes these memories far inside himself. He hopes that they will never see the light of day. He is under constant fear and tension that makes for more drinking.
Okay, you know what the summary is of that paragraph in 2 words? We lie. Come on. If you asked me if I had a drink and I'd already had a drink, I'm not going to tell you I've had a drink. And, you know, the lies I told, I never was honest about my drinking. And it's especially dangerous that we progressive alcoholics are not honest with our doctors. And the problem today is, with such a busy medical system, it's pretty easy to end up dead in this game because people don't have the time to chase you up your medical condition. They have no idea that you're drinking 3 bottles of vodka a day or 8 liters of wine or 2 boxes of wine or 3 boxes of wine, and plus a few joints along the way. And then maybe I'm on antidepressants, and in my case, opiates too, and throw whatever other cocktails in there. Unless they do the blood test, they're not going to know. But what if nobody has the time to? That's what almost happened in my case. It was during COVID. I damn near died. I mean, seriously, guys, this close. So I know what it's like to relapse over and over again. But I also know what it's saying here. You know, when we are saying we're not honest. We're not going to, he says he trembles to think someone might have observed him. We're embarrassed. We're humiliated. And then I somehow magically push those memories to the back of my brain. And then I learn today, as I remember, what I did to those I loved the most. And at the time I was active in my alcoholism, I can tell you I couldn't have given a darn. Because when I'm active in my disease, I am the most selfish person you could possibly imagine. It's me and my higher power, which is Sauvignon Blanc, by the caseload. But as long as it's vintage, I'm not an alcoholic, right? And as long as I'm just topping myself up and don't appear horribly drunk, then it's okay, right? And as long as if you don't see me do it, it's okay, right? Again, this is the double stand, the 2 personalities and the fact that we're lying. But here's the beauty of our program. You heard that saying, it takes one to know one? I know you. And I love you anyway, because you are me. We share this disease. And there's nobody else that gets you the way we get each other. And that's why the 5th step is such a powerful thing. Because when you come clean with your step 4, the details don't matter. This is the gift of the program to you. Unburden all that crap that has been weighing you down all your life. And be granted peace and serenity from it having been lifted. All right, Amy, you got anything to add to that? I think
Not to
we
that
got
paragraph.
time for another paragraph.
Yeah, I was hoping you could finish this last paragraph, the inconsistency. Anybody want to read it?
I don't
Sylvia?
mind reading, Amy.
Oh, it's all yours.
Okay. Psychologists are inclined to agree with us. We have spent thousands of dollars for examinations. We know but few instances where we have been given these doctors a fair break. We have seldom told them the whole truth, or have we followed their advice. Unwilling to be honest with these sympathetic men, we were honest with no one else. Small wonder many in the medical profession have a low opinion of alcoholics and their chance for recovery.
Okay, so I was alluding to that a little bit earlier. I want you to highlight few instances where we've given these doctors a fair break, and highlight it through the next sentence. We've seldom told them the whole, circle the word whole, truth, nor have we followed their advice. There's 2 things there, okay? Nor is like an or, right? It's not an and. So we've done 2 things here. First of all, I've written in the right-hand margin, half truths avail us nothing. And rigorous honesty. If I'm going to go in and tell my doctor half the truth about how much I've drunk and half the truth about whatever else I've been up to, how are they possibly going to help me? And for those of you who are in the medical profession, you know how difficult it is to be in the guessing game of what somebody is actually suffering from. But here's the crazy part of the disease. If we're diabetic, we'll certainly tell the doctor or the emergency nurse how much insulin we've taken. But why won't the alcoholic be honest about how they're abusing themselves and how much with? We lie. We lie because that's the nature of the disease. And this is really tough on the medical profession. As Dr. Silkworth said in the doctor's opinion, it's heartbreaking to see people like us come into their rooms and their sanitariums and their rehab centers and not leave fixed. But we do know that it says then, unwilling to be honest with these sympathetic men, we were honest with no one else. So including ourselves. Step 5 is time to get honest with 3 parties: you, your sponsor, and your God. And for many of us, it's the first time we've ever done it in our life. And all I can tell you is it's a trip. Because I did not realize how heavy I was. I weighed 3 times as much as I do physically because the suit of armor I was wearing, every single piece of it, weighed a ton. And for each one of these things that I shared and was rigorously honest about, I wasn't left with a little chink of it left on my shoulder. The whole thing dropped off. Now, if you can be rigorously honest about this whole process, can you imagine how light you will feel? And that's what I want you to take away from tonight. I think it's super important that we always end with a vision of hope. Because these promises for all of these steps have been coming true for millions of people for almost a century. There's no reason why you should be any different. The last thing in the world I ever thought, and I'm sure Amy ever thought, and a lot of you, is that on a Sunday night at Christmas time, we'd want to be sitting together discussing this book and learning more about our disease and helping others. So, hope you enjoyed that. Love to hear your thought on these pages.